In the summer of 1993, a father and his 12-year-old daughter walked into a small-town police station in rural Pennsylvania. They were never seen again. No exit footage, no witnesses, no trace. The case went cold until 30 years later, when a sealed FBI file was leaked, revealing evidence that shook the nation. Act I. The arrival on July 17, 1993, at 2:43 p.m., Harold Greaves and his daughter Lily entered Station 12 in the town of Marlow Creek. Harold was a quiet mechanic with no criminal record. Lily was a gifted child, known for her eerie drawings of staircases leading into darkness. They told the front desk officer they had urgent information about a missing person. Within minutes, they were escorted to Interview Room B. That was the last time anyone saw them. Act II. The vanishing security footage showed them entering, but not leaving. Officers claimed they never saw them again. The room was empty when checked. No signs of struggle. No fingerprints. The footage from inside the interview room was corrupted, static, and flickers of light. The station's logs were altered. The officer who escorted them, Deputy Ray Mallard, resigned 2 days later and vanished himself. Act III. The investigation, the FBI, took over. Rumors swirled. Secret tunnels, cult activity, government cover-ups. Lily's school drawings were confiscated. One depicted a man with no face standing behind a two-way mirror. Harold's garage was found burned down, with symbols etched into the concrete beneath the ash. The case was sealed in 1995. Act IV. The leak in 2023, a whistleblower leaked FBI documents. Among them, a photo of Interview Room B taken hours after the disappearance, showing a child's handprint on the ceiling. Audio logs of Harold whispering, "She sees it. She sees through it." A sketch by Lily of Station 12, with the words, "It's not a station. It's a gate." A classified memo. Subject Greaves may have accessed dimensional threshold. Recommends silence. Act V. The legacy, the town of Marlow Creek was evacuated in 2024 due to unexplained seismic activity beneath Station 12. The building was demolished, but locals say they still hear a child's laughter near the ruins. And every July 17th, the lights flicker in nearby homes at exactly 2:43 p.m. It began like any ordinary afternoon in Marlow Creek. Sunlight filtering through dusty blinds, the hum of cicadas outside, and the quiet shuffle of paperwork inside Station 12. At 2:43 p.m., Harold Greaves pushed open the heavy glass door, his hand trembling slightly as he held it for his daughter, Lily. She stepped in without hesitation, clutching a worn sketch pad to her chest. They weren't fugitives. They weren't suspects. They were just two people looking for help. But the moment they crossed that threshold, something shifted. The air inside the station felt heavier, as if time itself had paused to watch. 2. Harold's eyes scanned the room with urgency, not paranoia. He wasn't hiding. He was searching. Lily, on the other hand, seemed eerily calm. Her gaze lingered on the corners of the ceiling, as if she saw something others couldn't. The officer at the front desk, Deputy Mallard, noted their arrival in the logbook. "Missing person report," Harold had said, but he didn't name the missing. He simply whispered, "It's happening again." That phrase would later echo through every retelling of the case, a cryptic prelude to the unraveling that followed. 3. They were escorted to Interview Room B, a sterile chamber with a two-way mirror and a flickering fluorescent light. Harold sat down, his knuckles white against the metal table. Lily remained standing, her eyes fixed on the mirror. "It's behind there," she murmured. Mallard asked who they were looking for. Harold hesitated. "My wife," he said finally. "She disappeared in this town, in this station, 10 years ago, but there was no record of her. No file, no trace, just a name scribbled in the margins of an old casebook, Evelyn Greaves. Status, unknown. 4. The interview lasted only 17 minutes. Then silence. No one saw them leave. No one heard a door open. The footage from the hallway showed them entering the room. But the next frame was static. When officers checked the room, it was empty. No Harold, no Lily, just a sketch pad lying open on the table. The final drawing was of a staircase descending into blackness, with two figures standing at the top. One tall, one small, both faceless. 5. The station went into lockdown. Officers searched every room, every exit, every vent. Nothing. The logbook still had their names. The timestamp still read 2:43 p.m. But the security system registered no exit, no motion, no anomalies, except for one. The temperature in interview room B had dropped by 11 degrees in less than a minute. The mirror had a faint smudge on it, shaped like a child's hand. And beneath the table, someone had carved a single word into the metal: gate. 6. The town erupted in speculation. Some said Harold had orchestrated an elaborate disappearance. Others believed Lily had psychic abilities. But the most chilling theory came from an old janitor who had worked at Station 12 for decades. He claimed the room had always been wrong, that sometimes, late at night, he'd hear whispers coming from behind the mirror. He said the station was built over something ancient, something that didn't like to be disturbed. His story was dismissed as senile rambling, until he vanished 2-3 weeks later. 7. The FBI arrived within days. They sealed off interview room B and confiscated all evidence. Agents refused to comment, but one leaked memo described the incident as a potential breach event. What that meant, no one knew. But the memo included a disturbing detail. Lily's sketchpad contained a drawing dated 2 weeks before the disappearance. It showed Station 12, with the words "We go in, we don't come out," scribbled in red ink. The handwriting matched Lily's, but the ink was chemically aged, as if it had been written decades ago. 8. Harold's garage was searched. Beneath the floorboards, agents found a box of photographs, most of them torn or burned. One showed Evelyn Greaves standing in front of Station 12, her eyes blacked out with marker. Another showed Lily as a baby, sitting in a crib with a mirror behind her. In the reflection, a shadowy figure loomed. The FBI labeled the box classified, threshold evidence. But locals who saw the photos before they were taken claimed the figure in the mirror looked exactly like Deputy Mallard. 9. Mallard resigned the day after the disappearance. He left no forwarding address, no resignation letter. His locker contained only a single item, a cassette tape labeled Room B. When played, it revealed 17 minutes of silence, except for one moment at the 12-minute mark when a voice whispered, "She sees it. She sees through it." Audio experts confirmed the voice was Harold's. But the second voice, faint and childlike, said something else. "It's not a station. It's a gate." 10. And so the mystery deepened. Harold and Lily hadn't come to Station 12 to report a missing person. They had come to confront something, to reveal something, or perhaps to return to it. Whatever they saw behind that mirror, whatever truth they carried, it consumed them. They walked in seeking help. Instead, they became the story, the myth, the warning. And every year, on July 17th, the lights in Station 12 flicker at 2:43 p.m., just for a moment, as if the building remembers. The footage begins like any other, grainy, time-stamped, mundane. Harold and Lily Greaves step through the main entrance of Station 12, the door closing behind them with a mechanical hiss. The camera above the lobby captures their movements clearly. Harold's anxious glances, Lily's quiet stillness. They speak briefly to Deputy Mallard, who gestures toward the hallway. Then, at 2:47 p.m., they disappear into the corridor leading to interview room B. The camera continues recording, but they never return. 2. The hallway camera shows no movement after their entry. No shadows, no footsteps, no one exits. The timestamp rolls forward minute by minute until the tape ends. Officers later reviewed the footage dozens of times, frame by frame. There were no glitches, no cuts, no signs of tampering, just an uninterrupted reel of nothing. The door to interview room B never opens again. It's as if the room swallowed them whole. 3. Inside the room, the surveillance feed was even stranger. The footage begins normally. Harold sits down, Lily stands near the mirror. Mallard enters briefly, then exits. The camera continues recording for exactly 17 minutes. Then, at 3:04 p.m., the screen flickers. Static overtakes the image. For 11 seconds, the feed is pure distortion. When it returns, the room is empty. No Harold, no Lily, no sketchpad, just a faint hum, like distant machinery, in a single frame where the mirror seems to pulse. 4. The station's internal logs show no exit. No door opened. No motion sensors were triggered. The building's layout was simple. One entrance, one exit, both under constant surveillance. Officers searched every room, every hallway, every vent. Nothing. The only anomaly was a sudden drop in temperature recorded by the HVAC system. Interview room B fell to 4 degrees Celsius in under 30 seconds. No explanation was given. The system flagged it as environmental irregularity. 5. Witnesses were equally useless. No one saw Harold or Lily leave. No one heard a struggle. No one noticed anything unusual, except for one officer, who claimed he heard a faint knock from inside the mirror. He dismissed it as imagination. But later, when reviewing the footage, he swore he saw a flicker of movement behind the glass. A silhouette. Not Harold. Not Lily. Something else. Something taller. 6. The silence became its own kind of evidence. No alarms. No screams. No signs of panic. Just a void where 2 lives had been. The sketchpad was later found in the evidence locker, though no one remembered placing it there. Its final page was torn, but the imprint of pencil strokes remained, like someone had drawn with invisible ink. Forensic analysis revealed pressure patterns consistent with a spiral, a downward spiral. 7. The FBI's arrival brought more silence. Agents confiscated the tapes, sealed the room, and issued a gag order. Officers were told not to speak to press. The town was told it was a technical malfunction, but rumors spread. Some said the footage had captured something impossible, a moment where reality bent. Others believed Harold had discovered something he wasn't meant to. That Lily had seen it too, and that Station 12 was never just a building. 8. Years later, a technician who had backed up the original footage leaked a single frame online. It showed interview room be mid-static, with a faint outline of a doorway behind the mirror. Not a reflection. A doorway. The image was dismissed as doctored, but those who saw it claimed the doorway wasn't empty. Something stood inside, watching, waiting. The technician vanished 2 weeks later. His apartment was found empty, except for a single note. No exit. Just silence. 9. The silence infected the town. People stopped talking about the Greaves case. Station 12 was avoided. Children whispered about the mirror that eats people. One janitor refused to clean interview room B, claiming the walls breathed at night. He said he once heard Lily's voice calling from the vent. "We're still here," she said, but not like before. He quit the next day and moved out of state. His final paycheck was never collected. 10. And still, the footage remains. Locked in a federal archive, inaccessible to the public. But every so often, a new rumor surfaces, a frame recovered, a whisper heard, a temperature drop recorded. The silence hasn't ended. It's only deepened. And somewhere behind the mirror, behind the static, behind the absence of sound, something waits. Watching, listening, holding on to the moment Harold and Lily stepped into Station 12 and never came back. Interview room B was never meant to be remarkable. It was a standard interrogation space. 4 walls, 1 table, 2 chairs, and a 2-way mirror. But those who spent time inside often described a strange sensation, as if the room were listening, as if the silence wasn't empty, but waiting. Officers joked about it, called it the box, said it made people confess things they hadn't even done. But Harold Greaves didn't come to confess. He came to reveal. And Lily, she came to see. 2. The moment Harold and Lily entered room B, something shifted. The fluorescent light above them flickered. Not the usual hum of old wiring, but a rhythmic pulse like a heartbeat. Harold sat down immediately, his posture rigid, his eyes locked on the mirror. Lily didn't sit. She walked slowly around the room, her fingers grazing the walls, her gaze distant. "It's thinner here," she whispered. Mallard, the deputy, asked what she meant. She didn't answer. She just stared into the mirror and said, It's watching. The interview began like any other. Harold spoke of Evelyn, his missing wife. He claimed she had vanished inside this very station 10 years earlier. Mallard checked the records. Nothing. No Evelyn Greaves. No missing persons report. Harold grew agitated. You erased her, he said. You erased everything. Lily remained silent, but her sketchpad was open on the table. She was drawing something, lines, spirals, a staircase that twisted downward. Mallard leaned in a look. Where does it go? He asked. Lily replied, where she went. At minute 12, the mirror began to fog. No one was smoking. The room was sealed. Yet condensation formed in perfect circles, as if something on the other side was breathing against the glass. Mallard stood up, visibly shaken. He reached for the door, but it wouldn't open. The handle turned, but the lock held firm. Harold didn't move. Lily smiled faintly. It's starting, she said. The lights dimmed. The camera feed outside the room recorded a sharp drop in temperature. Then, static. When the feed returned, the room was empty. No Harold. No Lily. No sketchpad. The mirror was clear again, but a single handprint remained, small, childlike, pressed high against the glass. Officers rushed in. The door was unlocked now. The room was silent, but the air felt wrong. Thick, charged. One officer described it as standing inside a thunderstorm that hadn't broken yet. Another refused to enter, claiming he saw someone standing behind the mirror. But when they checked the observation room, it was empty. The FBI arrived within hours. They sealed Room B, ran tests, took samples. The walls emitted a low-frequency hum, barely audible but constant. The mirror was removed and analyzed. Beneath the reflective surface, they found scratches, symbols etched into the glass from the inside. Spirals, eyes, staircases. One symbol matched a drawing found in Harold's garage, burned into the wood beneath the floorboards. It was labeled Threshold. Agents began referring to Room B not as a location, but as an event. 7. Rumors spread quickly. Officers who had spent time in Room B reported vivid dreams, of falling, of mirrors that led to other places, of voices whispering in languages they didn't understand. One officer claimed he saw Lily in his dream, standing at the bottom of a staircase, holding a mirror that reflected nothing. He woke up screaming. The next day, he resigned. His locker contained only a note. It's not a room. It's a fracture. 8. The town of Marlow Creek began to change. Electrical surges near Station 12 became common. Pets refused to enter the building. Children drew spirals and chalk on the sidewalks. One child claimed she saw Lily in the mirror at home, waving. Her parents dismissed it until the mirror cracked from the inside. The family moved away. The mirror was confiscated by federal agents. It bore the same symbol etched into the glass in Room B. 9. Interview Room B was eventually sealed off. Not just locked, walled in. The entrance was bricked over, the hallway rerouted. But those who worked in the station said they could still hear it. A faint hum, a whisper, a knock. One janitor claimed the bricks were warm to the touch, as if something behind them was alive. He said he heard Lily's voice, soft and distant. We're still here, but not like before. He quit the next day. His replacement lasted 3 weeks. 10. And yet, the room remains. Not in physical space, but in memory, in dreams, in the static between channels. Interview Room B, where reality fractured, where time bent, where Harold and Lily crossed into something else. Something unseen, something waiting. And every year on July 17th, the sealed wall behind Station 12 grows warm again, just for a moment. As if the room remembers, Deputy Raymond Mallard had served at Station 12 for nearly 15 years. He was known for his quiet demeanor, his meticulous reports, and his habit of staring just a little too long at the two-way mirror in Interview Room B. He wasn't a man of drama. He didn't chase headlines. He followed protocol. So when Harold and Lily Greaves walked into the station that July afternoon, Mallard did what he'd always done. He logged their names, asked the right questions, and escorted them down the hallway. But something in his eyes changed when he opened the door to Room B. As if he recognized it. As if he'd been waiting. 2. Mallard was the last person to see them alive. He led them into the room, nodded once, and stepped out. The camera caught his exit. His face was pale. His hands trembled slightly. He didn't return to his desk. He didn't file a report. He walked to the break room, sat down, and stared at the wall for 27 minutes. Then he stood, walked out of the station, and never came back. His car was found 2 days later, parked neatly outside an abandoned church on the edge of town. The keys were still in the ignition. The driver's seat was warm. 3. Inside the car, investigators found a single item, a cassette tape labeled B. It contained 17 minutes of silence, followed by a faint whisper, Mallard's voice saying, "She sees it. She sees through it." Then another voice, childlike, responding, "It's not a station. It's a gate." The tape was confiscated by the FBI. The church was searched. In the basement, they found a mirror, cracked, scorched around the edges, and covered in handprints. One matched Lily's. Another matched Mallard's. The rest were unidentified. 4. Mallard's apartment was untouched. No signs of struggle. No signs of packing. But his journal told a different story. In the final entry, dated the night before the disappearance, he wrote, "They're coming back. I saw her in the mirror again. She hasn't aged. She remembers." Beneath the entry was a sketch, interview room B, but distorted. The walls bent inward. The mirror was a doorway, and standing in front of it was a faceless figure holding a child's hand. 5. His colleagues were stunned. Mallard had never spoken of Evelyn Greaves, never mentioned Harold. But one officer recalled a strange moment years earlier when Mallard had asked about a missing woman who wasn't in the system. He'd said she vanished inside the station, that she left behind a child. No one took him seriously. They thought he was tired, overworked. But now, they wondered if Mallard had known all along, if he'd been waiting for Harold and Lily to return, or to finish what had begun. 6. The FBI labeled Mallard a person of interest, but they never found him. His bank accounts remained untouched. His phone was never used again. His fingerprints were found in places he'd never been. Harold's garage, Evelyn's old apartment, even on the underside of the mirror in room B. It was as if he'd been following them, or perhaps as if he'd been pulled toward them, like a thread unraveling back to its origin. 7. Locals began to whisper. They said Mallard hadn't vanished. He'd crossed over. That room B wasn't just a fracture. It was a passage, and Mallard had followed Harold and Lily through it. Some claimed to see him in reflections, standing just behind them. Others said he appeared in dreams, always silent, always watching. One child drew a picture of him, tall, pale, eyes like static. She said he told her, "The gate is open." But not for long. 8. The station tried to erase him. His name was removed from the roster. His locker was emptied. His badge was melted down. But the building remembered. His footsteps echoed in the hallway long after he was gone. The break room light flickered every day at 2:43 p.m., and the mirror in room B, now sealed behind brick, still bore the faint outline of his hand. Officers stopped working night shifts. Janitors refused to clean the hallway. The silence grew louder. 9. Mallard's disappearance became legend. A ghost story, a warning. But those who knew him best said he wasn't afraid, that he'd been preparing, that he believed Harold and Lily were keys to something larger, something ancient, something buried beneath Station 12. His journal hinted at rituals, at symbols, at a map drawn in dreams. One page was torn out, but the imprint remained. She sees through it. And now so do I. 10. And so, the officer who escorted them vanished. Not with panic. Not with violence, but with purpose, like a ghost following ghosts, like a man stepping into the story he'd been part of all along. And every year, on July 17th, the mirror in room B hums faintly, as if remembering the moment Mallard turned the handle, opened the door, and walked into something that wasn't meant to be seen. Lily Greaves was quiet, observant, and unervingly precise. She didn't speak much, but she drew constantly. On napkins, receipts, walls, even the margins of her father's repair manuals. Her drawings weren't childish doodles. They were architectural, symbolic, and often unsettling. Spirals, staircases, mirrors, and faceless figures populated her pages. Teachers dismissed them as signs of trauma. Psychologists called them visual displacement. But Harold believed they were something else. He said Lily didn't draw what she imagined. She drew what she saw. 2. The sketchpad she carried into Station 12 was already half full. Each page told a story, but not in sequence. One drawing showed a hallway with no doors, just mirrors on either side. Another depicted a staircase descending into a pit of eyes. But the most disturbing was a rendering of Interview Room B, drawn weeks before she ever entered it. The proportions were exact. The mirror was cracked, and in the reflection stood a man with no face, holding a child's hand. Beneath it, she had written, "We go in. We don't come out." 3. After the disappearance, the sketchpad was found in the evidence locker. No one remembered placing it there. The final page was torn, but forensic analysis revealed faint pressure marks, suggesting Lily had drawn something and then erased it. When enhanced, the image showed a spiral staircase wrapped around a mirror, with symbols etched into each step. One symbol matched a glyph found beneath Harold's garage floor. Another matched a carving on the underside of the mirror in Room B. The drawings weren't random. They were maps. For the FBI classified the sketchpad as threshold material. Agents noted that several drawings resembled topographical scans of the land beneath Station 12, scans that hadn't been made public. One page showed a cross-section of the building, with a void beneath Room B labeled Gate. Another depicted concentric circles radiating from the mirror, like ripples in water. Lily had drawn these weeks before entering the station. The implication was chilling. She knew what was beneath. Or worse, she remembered. 5. Locals who saw the drawings before they were confiscated began to speak in whispers. One claimed Lily had drawn his house, accurately, down to the cracks in the foundation, but with a mirror in the basement that didn't exist. A week later, he found an old mirror behind a false wall. It was cracked. Another said she saw Lily sketching a spiral on the sidewalk, then watched her trace it with her finger and whisper, "It's listening." The spiral remained for days, even after rain. It was etched into the concrete. 6. Teachers recalled a particular drawing Lily made in class, a figure standing in front of a mirror with dozens of hands reaching out from the reflection. She titled it Echo. When asked what it meant, she said, "It's what happens when you look too long." That same day, the classroom mirror shattered without cause. No one was near it. The janitor who cleaned it up claimed the shards were warm to the touch. He quit the next morning, leaving behind a note. "She draws what's real, not what we see." 7. Harold kept a folder of Lily's drawings at home. He believed they were warnings, messages from Evelyn, or echoes of something deeper. One sketch showed Evelyn standing in front of Station 12, her eyes blacked out, her hands pressed against the glass. Beneath it, Lily had written, "She's still there." Harold showed it to Mallard once. The deputy stared at it for a long time, then said, "I've seen that before." He never explained what he meant. But the next day, he requested reassignment. It was denied. 8. The drawings began to change in the weeks leading up to the disappearance. They grew darker, more abstract. One showed a mirror splitting in two, with light pouring out of one side and shadow from the other. Another depicted a staircase that looped endlessly, with Harold and Lily walking downward, their faces slowly fading. The final drawing, unfinished, was of Room B, but the walls were bending inward and the mirror was glowing. Harold said she stopped sleeping. She said the drawings kept her awake. 9. After the disappearance, the sketchpad was studied by cryptographers, psychologists, and physicists. One physicist claimed the spiral patterns matched energy signatures found in quantum threshold experiments. A psychologist said the drawings resembled trauma maps, visual representations of memory fractures. But none could explain how a 12-year-old girl had encoded symbols that hadn't been publicly documented. One expert simply said she wasn't drawing what she knew. She was drawing what knew her. 10. And so, Lily's drawings weren't just art. They were warnings, blueprints, echoes. They told a story that hadn't happened yet, or had happened elsewhere. They mapped a place beneath the surface of reality, a place accessed through mirrors, spirals, and silence. And every year on July 17th, one of her drawings reappears, on a wall, in a mirror on a sidewalk, as if she's still drawing, as if the warning hasn't ended, as if the gate is still open. When Harold and Lily vanished inside Station 12, the local authorities were overwhelmed. The footage made no sense. The room was empty. The mirror was clean. The air was still. Within 48 hours, the FBI arrived, not with questions but with orders. Interview room B was sealed. The tapes were confiscated. Officers were told to forget what they saw. The disappearance was reclassified as internal anomaly. But anomalies don't erase people. They don't leave behind sketchpads filled with symbols no one could decipher. And they don't make mirrors hum. 2. The agents didn't speak to the press. They didn't brief the town. They worked at night, in silence, wearing gloves and carrying equipment that looked more scientific than forensic. One officer claimed he saw them scanning the walls with devices that emitted low pulses of sound. Another said they brought in a physicist, not a profiler, not a psychologist, but a man who specialized in dimensional resonance. His name was never released. His face was never recorded. But he spent 3 hours inside Room B. When he emerged, he was pale, shaking, and refused to speak. The station was scrubbed. Every surface cleaned. Every file sealed. The mirror was removed and replaced with a blank wall. But the original mirror wasn't destroyed. It was transported to a federal facility in Virginia, labeled Artifact 12B. There, it was placed in a containment chamber. Reports later leaked that the mirror emitted low-frequency vibrations every July 17th at 2:43 p.m., the exact time Harold and Lily entered the station. One technician claimed he saw a handprint appear on the glass. Another said he heard a child's voice whisper, "We're still here." The FBI's official statement was brief: no criminal activity, no threat to public safety. But internally, they issued a Level 4 containment protocol. The case was buried under layers of classification. Agents who worked on it were reassigned. Some resigned. One disappeared, but the silence didn't hold. In 2023, a whistleblower leaked fragments of the sealed file. Among them, a photo of interview room B taken hours after the disappearance, showing a child's handprint on the ceiling, a memo labeled "Threshold Breach," and an audio clip of Harold whispering, "She sees it. She sees through it."